Hello everyone, and welcome to the newest edition of This Week in Bronze, episode 15, something I'm super excited about. So a couple videos back, Eric had commented about Rift Herald, when to take it, and certain things like that. And I had been thinking just recently, and with the addition of being able to navigate maps a little better and be able to see different parts of the maps and see how pros have been playing the Rift Herald, I now want to do that and feel a little more comfortable doing that. So here we go, diving into that newish weird purple dude that I should have talked about on release. Anyway, if you like the series, feel free to hit a like because it's just like the rest of them. If you're not sure, keep watching. If you know you don't like it, just hit that dislike button. Anyway, let's dive right in. A little bit of history. Rift Herald was introduced, who cares? But he looked like this. He was weird, he was purple, had a giant honor ball on his back. He could literally see. He literally had eyes on the back of his head, or whatever that is. Anyway, around mid-season, Riot decided that their old version of the Rift Herald wasn't quite living up to the expectations that it was had. It was supposed to be like a mini Baron buff for one person, and it had some cool stats and gave you kind of cool things, and for a while it kind of gave you that mini Baron buff for one person, and they kind of changed it and modified it and adapted it over time, and they decided they didn't want that at all. So what they made is a tower sieging machine. Looks like this. I mean, how can it not be? With teeth like that, with 6 eyes. But anyway, so that's what new Rift Herald is all about. It's about taking towers. It's a giant minion that just pushes towers like a madman, and that's kind of the basis for all of this. When to take it, why it's such a strategic advantage to have it, and what it can really do for you, your objective taking, and your various other tower taking needs down here in Bronze. Alright, now for, just bear with me, an odd tangent break brought to you by Snickers. Remember, Snickers satisfies, but my content never will. So we do have, I just drew a very generic picture of where people are going to be on Summoner's Rift, and I did this because of an odd tangent. I was watching a stream before bed one night. He was a guy describing, while in queue, the differences between where champions are placed in Dota, Heroes of Newerth, and League. And he had a couple different great explanations as to why. Most of it was the jungle placement, and with League's open jungle format, it really doesn't have the same constrictions to where you should put your champions like it does in other games. But a big reason that he presented as to why there are 2 people in the bot lane is Dragon. Dragon's a pretty large objective in this game, and it's consistent. So that's where you want to have your power farmer and someone to support that power farmer to really allow for quick movement and numbers advantage into the Dragon Pit. And the reason I bring this up at all is because Rift Herald is becoming a larger, it's less consistent, so I don't think it's gonna like completely shift how we play League, but it is a pretty big objective, and it does bring things into relevancy that Riot kind of nerfed out, like lane swaps. It's something I briefly touched on in my last video, or a couple videos ago, and I guess it opens the door, you know, to think from a really large perspective, you know, why there are even 2 people in the bot lane at all, and kind of opens up what objectives mean for the game as a whole. So that's my little tangent. It helps kind of open up the door to things like having numbers advantages around Rift Herald and things like that. So that's why I brought it up at all. I hope it brings a little bit of context to some of the things I want to say. It was really enlightening to me to hear it from an outside perspective like that, to someone that has played an extensive amount of all the different games, MOBAs, as to why we even do League the way we do. So I wanted to start with that and, kind of lead into different kind of placements of people and when you should take the Rift Herald dependent on that. So this is what I think personally, and through watching a bunch of pros and just kind of figuring it out on my own, the best scenario for, in this instance, the blue team to take the Rift Herald. So that's a lot of information and there's a lot of weird crap going on. So I want to take a little bit of time, break that down, and delve into some of the specifics. So we start with a blank, peaceful Summoner's Rift. And we're going to start in the top lane because that's nearest to the Baron. Or Baron Pit, Rift's Herald. So you want your minion wave up, and that puts your top laner in a position to move down to the Herald Pit. You're assuming your jungler is somewhere in the vicinity if you're going to go for it. And then we go to mid lane. You want your mid laner pushed up kind of aggressively, but not too far, with a ward to the side away from the Rift Herald so they can see any incoming ganks if the jungler happens to be on that side. This is going to encourage skirmishes from the enemy and things of that nature. So their top side is going to try to push that wave out and then come aid their team or jungler or whomever at the Herald. Same with the mid laner. They want to try to push that wave out where it's not a threat to their towers anymore, or your laner isn't a threat to their towers anymore, especially in mid. And they also want to aid their team. Their jungle could be, bot side jungle river or top side jungle. Ideally, that Black X, you want the dragon to be gone to make this a better focus for your team so their enemy jungler can't just snatch up a dragon while you're grabbing Herald. Lastly, ward placement. So we want wards up towards the top there and somewhere in the middle or near that entrance to the river. That way you can see any incoming junglers, mid laners, top laners, anyone that's going to come to contest this, you can see them. Down in bot lane, I mean, ideally, they're just doing their own thing. Dragon's gone, they're farming up, fighting, whatever. Hopefully your support isn't feeding, or your ADC for that matter. They want wards down there too, with nice vision up, so that while you're taking Rift Herald, their jungler can't just take advantage of a free bot lane either. So they kind of want to defensively position themselves with really good vision into the river. So yeah, that's the ideal way to take our Rift Herald. That's the setup. It's kind of like a mini setup for Baron with a little less people, a little less resources put into it. And we're still assuming that most, if not all, the towers are still up. So we need to take into account some of these and waves to a little less of an extent for certain lanes and more for others, as opposed to in a Baron take. Again, this is just my opinion. Just when I personally think it's best to take the Rift Herald. It's kind of in a stall situation where there's nothing really better to take and no lane is in a huge lead where you can directly take a tower. So that's kind of when you want to do it. Now, obviously situations are going to vary, and as they vary, you want to figure out the same way to kind of get that vision and people away if you know they're coming, set up for, a surprise fucking attack or something. And if they're not there, just a safe Rift Herald and everyone gets out safe. So you want to set up something up similar to that if your situation does vary and you're not in that stall kind of situation. Now we're going to kind of move into when to use the Rift Herald, what that's going to mean for your team, and what it really can do at its least and at the most. Let's go. So now we're just going to talk for a short bit at the end on how to use your Rift Herald. So obviously the big bronze move would be to take that straight into mid lane, push that shit all the way down and win the game. Because it's Rift Herald, why not? But this game isn't that simple. There's a lot of different little things that you have to consider, and sometimes whoever picks it up never uses it at all. So what I'm trying to represent, and didn't narrate at the same time I'm doing this, is, maybe at the top or the bot you have a weak lane where in their lane, their mid lane, they have a mid laner who's really pushing hard and they have the advantage on your mid laner. It's not really as viable. Or if they have, 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 people there, that's not going to be an ideal take for you. So you're not going to want to just run it up mid every time because it's not always going to be good. You're ideally, at the least, you're only going to get about half a turret. So if it's not half and they can stop it before it even gets there, probably not a good move. What I'm representing here is you've got 2 your guys in the mid lane, maybe a third to support it, and then you're going to want to take 2 more top, pop that baby down and rush it down that weaker lane. The big key here, is that there's a fight or something going on in the mid lane to distract the other members that are using the Rift Herald. You can do this as a one-man show if you got someone really good at split pushing, doing it on their own. I would highly encourage that. The point is, you just want a bunch of people starting something so that others have the safety to do so. Another situation is you just take all 5 of your team members, you're going to make it a move to summon the Rift Herald when they have a numbers disadvantage. Maybe they only have 1, 2, or 3 people in the mid lane, and you're going to push and you're going to make sure you have more wave clear than they do. Because if they have wave clear, they're going to wave clear the wave, kill the Herald, and then your whole take is just blown out. So what you want to do there is make sure you have the numbers advantage, the pushing advantage, and they don't have enough CC or wave clear to lock your Rift Herald down, and you can get the maximum use out of it. I mean, this applies for any lane, but in this example, the mid lane. So that's Rift Herald. That's my idea of what an ideal take is, or why there's so much pressure around it in the top lane. Obviously, like I said, setups vary. Maybe you have more people there, maybe you have less people there. The key is vision to make sure that you can counter whoever comes and tries to steal it from you or who just wants to fight you. Thank you, if you did watch this far, for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. This was super dry, but it was really informational. I like doing it. Hit that like if you found it useful or entertaining somehow. I wouldn't. And dislike it if it wasn't. If you disagree with me and you think I'm fucking stupid and who would listen to this guy, he's in bronze, leave it in the comments. I do want to hear about it. I want to hear your opinion and what you think of me. So there we go. Thank you all again. I really do appreciate it. Episode 15. I'm still doing this, having fun. Granted at a slower rate, but I'm having fun. And that's what matters. I don't know. Also that you guys are getting some out of it. Anyway, thank you all again so much. It means a lot. And until my next video, have a good one.